Now, I know this room doesn't look very familiar. To be honest with you, it's not very familiar to me either. Recently moved into a new house. Bought a house with my fiance. But now we have an office space with some interesting decorations. And we get to talk about basketball again. So, let's do that. As a fan of the Indiana Pacers, I understand that the general opinion of the team right now is that they're pretty bad. And I agree. And I love it. Which that's a wild statement to kind of just put out there that I love my team sucking, but as the word goes, if you're in the numbers on the board community, you want to suck good. Now, this is a team that at times has sucked really good this season and at times has sucked kind of bad. But overall, this is what I wanted. When people were talking about the Pacers going into the season, we talked a lot about the potential that the Indiana Pacers could still fight for a play-in spot or even be a 6th seed in the Eastern Conference with teams like the Celtics, teams like the Sixers, teams like the Bucks going through their different roster moves and things like that, where maybe injuries and stuff were going to come into play. And to be honest, whenever you look at the way the season has panned out so far, I think we over-exaggerated how bad some of those teams would be. And I think we overhyped certain teams in the Eastern Conference up to this point. Now, I'm recording this on November 17th. Season's not over, until the spring. So we have plenty of time to figure out who's real and who's not. I would say we're not going to know what the Eastern Conference is going to really look like until closer to the All-Star break when we get the trade deadline and some of these teams get to retool and make moves. But a team that I don't think will be making many moves, or if they are, they're going to be selling, is my Indiana Pacers. Obviously, Halliburton's out right now, out for the season because he tore his Achilles in the finals. And there was one move that was made that was kind of the silver lining in the entire Tyrese Halliburton injury. Now, obviously, losing in Game 7 of the finals because your star player got hurt while he was on a burner. 3 for 3 from behind the arc in the first, 7 minutes of that game. He was going to have a great game, and I still stand that I think that would have been a championship-winning performance. But nonetheless, neither here nor there. What happened happened, and the Indiana Pacers future-proofed their offseason and their future. I've said future-proof. Of course, that's what that means. But the Indiana Pacers future-proofed during the finals, and it kind of flew under the radar. And until Halliburton tore his Achilles, we didn't know just how important what they did was. All right, what we're going to do is we're going to do a little dive on the Indiana Pacers basketball reference page because I want y'all to see just exactly what I mean whenever I say that they future-proofed. Now, I went to the transactions page and it didn't actually show the move that I was talking about, but you all probably know it if you're already here. Indiana Pacers traded away or made a trade to get their own draft pick back for this year's draft class. And this year's draft class is a fantastic draft to be in. It is a great draft to have a top 5 pick in, especially a top 3 pick if you can get it. And look at the roster at hand. Obviously, no Tyrese Halliburton, because, the injury report tells an even better story. No Johnny Furphy right now. No Halliburton, no Cam Jones all season so far. Cam Jones still isn't out, or still isn't able to play. No Neesmith right now. No Obi Toppin, who's going to be out for long enough to basically not play again until he's traded at the deadline, if that's what's going to happen. Yeah, the Indiana Pacers are extremely banged up, and it's leaving them with a lineup that you don't necessarily want to see every week. We've had a lot of Ben Shepherd minutes, a lot of Jay Huff, a lot of Jeremiah Robinson Earl has been a starter here recently, Andrew Nembhard, of course. And even with potential breakout candidates on the roster, some of what we've seen so far hasn't really been up to snuff for even what our expectations were without Halliburton. And the biggest example is Jarris Walker. And I don't want to be a box score watcher / stat guy in this because eye test tells another story. Jarris Walker played very well to start the season, and it's just kind of trailed off over time. As you can see, he had a stretch here in the last 3 games where he only hit 3 shots on 27 attempts. That's not good in any capacity. And the biggest thing that's holding him back is that it's been a lot of attacking the rim and not finishing. He's drawing free throws because of it, but when he's not getting fouled, he's kind of just attacking for the sake of attacking. And it's created this situation where a rotational player, and I know I should have an ad block, but a rotational player from last season's Indiana Pacers is now virtually unplayable at times, but he's getting the most minutes of his career because of the injury issues. Now, he's averaging 10 points a game, which is his best ever, but he's doing it on all-time bad efficiency. Another thing with Jarris Walker is that his defense seems to have a ceiling on it where he's really got to be, like, he's got to be an offensive star to really make a way in this rotation. Because let's say Obi Toppin doesn't get traded, right? There's a world here where he is buried in the depth chart again in the long-term future of the squad. Guys like Isaiah Jackson have been back. Obviously, the Jay Huff signing. Jarris Walker's minutes are going to come as a 4, maybe as a small ball 5, maybe as a big lineup 3. And the Pacers kind of have an abundance of guys that can do a little bit of all of that when healthy. Now, as I said at the start of the video, I'm okay with sucking right now. Why is that? Because the draft class is buku. If you haven't seen who's in this draft class, I'm telling you, it is nutty. We'll conversate with the wonderful people over at Tankathon because they do their sim lottery. And in this scenario, the Pacers are they're in this top 3 range, right? All of these guys here, Nate Ament, AJ DeBonsa, Cam Boozer, Darren Peterson are phenomenal prospects. And the way they've all played up to this point, let's look at their per game numbers right now. And then you have guys like Michael Brown Jr., Chris Senack, Koa Pete, who are all going to be guys that I think will be very good. I mean, these are all, like, there's some guys in this class, Jaden Q, like some of these guys that will be and could be very fun and good pickups for the Indiana Pacers come draft time. But they own their pick, and they're going to have a top 3 or top 5 pick. In my opinion, what this is showing here is perfect because Cam Boozer is a guy that I want. Cam Boozer, as you can see, is a rebounding machine, and the Pacers lineup at the moment, I don't like the big man rotation in terms of a rebounding perspective. I thought replacing Miles Turner whenever he left in the offseason with Jay Huff didn't really supplement the need at rebounder. Now, it did help a little bit with the three-point shooting because Isaiah Jackson also comes back into the lineup as an injured player from last year. And he's a very good rebounder, but they have him listed here at 6'10". He's probably 6'9" or 6'8", maybe even. Like, he's a smaller center, and he's a great rebounder for his size. But he doesn't have the shooting that Miles Turner brings, and Jay Huff can kind of supplement that a little bit. But Cam Boozer is a guy who, yes, he projects to be a 4. He's 6'9", 250, and that's a college measurement, so that's probably a little high on both ends. He's probably a little shorter and a little bit heavier, or a little bit lighter than what it's listing him as. But I love the prospect of Cam Boozer coming to the Indiana Pacers and being the next 4-5 type of guy. The Obi Toppin role in the Pacers rotation, especially in the playoff run, was to be the backup 5-man so the pace and tempo can really get to run. And then at times you saw Obi Toppin check into the game with a center when they were playing against teams that had bigger lineups, and he got to kind of run almost. It was just very much that Obi Toppin's role with the team is a pace, tempo, fast, big man type of role. Cam Boozer and what he brings on the rebounding aspect, the defensive aspect, and also his finishing ability, I think can play a small ball 5/4 in the style of offense that the Pacers like to run. And I'm not against the people who have the conversation or who say the things about, oh, the double big lineup is back. Teams are too big now to be running a guy like his size at the 5. But I think the way the Pacers play, especially with the engine that is Tyrese Halliburton when he's healthy, a guy like Cam Boozer would be an awesome fit. Now, Darren Peterson is a great player as well. I do think his fit with the team might be a little trickier because you already have Nembhard and Halliburton. And if McConnell stays with the squad, you have kind of a logjam at guard. If you bring in Darren Peterson, you might end up putting the best player in the class off the bench or putting Andrew Nembhard on the bench to make that work. But then outside of Cam Boozer, the guy that I think most people are gonna say is the best fit, and I'm okay with this to be honest, is AJ DeBonsa. And AJ DeBonsa is at BYU right now, and he's a freak athlete. He is a very talented guy. The things that Cooper Flagg was doing last year to become the number 1 overall pick, AJ DeBonsa does some of those same things. He's just one of these rangy wings that moves and plays like a guard despite being a 6'8", 6'9" wing. It's very Paul George-ish in a way, and I think what A.J. DeBonsa can do for a team like the Pacers is allow the Pacers some flexibility off of a contract like a Benedict Mathurin or off of a contract like an Obi Toppin, because I do think we have to kind of move forward with the idea that Obi Toppin, T.J. McConnell, some of these guys could get sold at the deadline with the way the record's going. Now, if the Pacers fall at all, Koa Pete, Nate Ament, Chris Senack, these are guys that I think could be fun fits for the team. Nate Ament, I've heard him described as a Zachary Richesse type of guy. He's just a long three-point shooting wing. I know Koa Pete has had some good finishing over the years from what I've seen from him. And Chris Senack's someone that I need to get more familiar with, but I know that he's kind of the most traditional or closest thing to a traditional center in terms of what you're going to be looking at in drafting in this class. But this draft class is so fun, and the roster, when Tyrese Halliburton is back, guys like Johnny Furphy, guys like Andrew Nembhard, Talon Peter's been solid whenever I've seen him get some playing time. I've been a Ben Shepherd fan for a while, even though that's kind of up in the air as well. The jury's obviously out on him. But this is a roster that has some young talent, and it has some guys, some veteran guys, like a McConnell, like an Obi Toppin, who I think we could see sold at the deadline. And I think selling these guys could also open the door for bigger and better things come the free agency period and come the draft. And, maybe draft picks are included in these trades and we can really figure something out to get more capital to build kind of the second wave of the Halliburton era, because obviously Halliburton's going to be the star for a very long time in Indy. It's a matter of figuring out how you can retool out of going to the finals when you were kind of playing with house money and you were not expected to make it to the finals. It's about how can you retool and how can you reprocess and find a finals run and even a championship with Halliburton at your center, at your core, as the engine of your offense. I'm interested to see what you guys think about the Indiana Pacers and what the future could hold for them. And if you have any ideas about the things that I said or about what you want the Pacers to do, whether that's trades, signings, any sort of thing like that, let me know in the comment section. If you made it this far, comment something about who's your favorite Indiana Pacer. That's how I know that you made it through this video. And I love you all, and I'm glad to be back. Plenty more coming now that we have our own space here. And yeah, I'm just, like I said, as a wise man once said, you gotta suck good. Gotta suck good.